the Voice of Turkey.
This is the Voice of Turkey's English language transmission, broadcasting from Ankara in the 49 meter band between 1830 and 1930 UTC on 5945 kHz to Europe, between 2030 and 2130 UTC in the 31 meter band on 9875 kHz to South Asia and Australia, between 2200 and 2300 UTC in the 31 meter band and on 9830 kHz to Europe, Eastern USA and Canada, and in the 19 meter band on 15520 kHz between 1630 and 1730 UTC to Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. The Voice of Turkey is also beamed between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 41 meter band and on 7275 kHz to Europe, the USA, Eastern Canada and Cuba, between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 49 meter band on 6165 kHz to Iraq, Syria, Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. You can listen to us over the Turksat 3A and 4A satellites and on the internet at www.trt.net.tr through the Voice of Turkey link. Please note that transmissions broadcast between 2200 and 2300 UTC and between 0300 and 0400 UTC have been pre-recorded. Our email address is englishdesk@trt.net.tr.
TRT Voice of Turkey Radio presents news. 98 of 197 forest fires in Turkey are under control, the nation's agriculture and forest minister said late Saturday. Efforts to contain 9 blazes are still ongoing, Bekir Pakdemirli said during a news conference at the Fire Management Center in the Değirmen district of southwestern Muğla province. Mr. Pakdemirli warned that caution will be needed to combat the massive fires on Sunday when humidity is expected to drop 10%. He said 3 firefighting aircrafts, 9 helicopters, 146 water tenders, 20 water trucks and 8 dozers are being used by 529 personnel to extinguish the blazes in Marmaris. As the head of an organization that planted 5.5 billion trees, we will plant 1,000 trees in the lieu of each tree burned when the first rains fall, he added. The fires started on Wednesday with most in southern regions. At least 6 people have been killed. Meanwhile, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has thanked his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin for extending support to fight forest fires in the country's south, according to Turkey's Communications Directorate. President Erdogan on Saturday thanked Putin for Russia's allocation of 5 firefighting aircrafts and 3 more helicopters to deal with massive wildfires. Putin also wished a speedy recovery to Turkey, the statement added. Later, speaking to media after touring the affected areas, President Erdogan said 50 million liras have been released as grant to help people affected by the fires. President Erdogan spoke by phone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call addressed the steps to further enhance the Turkish-Russian relations. the Directorate of Communication said. Meanwhile, issues that will improve Turkey and Russia relations were also discussed by the two leaders. It added, Russia's Emergency Situations Ministry also said 11 air vehicles would be sent to Turkey to fight the forest fires. Turkey has administered more than 73.13 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines since it launched a mass vaccination campaign in January. The country continues its intensive vaccination campaign to curb the spread of the coronavirus, as everyone aged 18 and over is eligible for vaccine shots. Turkey is also administering a third COVID-19 vaccine shot, and 4.88 million such doses have been given. To date, 66.3% of the adult population in Turkey has received at least one vaccine dose. The ministry also confirmed 22,000 new infections and 79 coronavirus-related deaths in the last 24 hours. And with a nationwide drop in cases and expedited vaccination drive, Turkey entered a new normalization phase on July 1, lifting almost all virus-related restrictions. However, seeking to limit the spread of Delta variant, the country suspended flights from India and required arrivals from the UK, Iran, Egypt and Singapore to have negative COVID-19 test results taken within 72 hours prior. Since December 2019, the pandemic has claimed over 4.21 million lives in 192 countries and regions, with more than 197.5 million cases reported, according to the US-based Johns Hopkins University. In the meantime, thousands in France protesting a special virus pass march through Paris, with French police in full riot gear using their fists to push some demonstrators back and firing tear gas against some crowds. Police took up posts along Paris' Champs-Élysées to guard against an invasion of the famed avenue by violent demonstrators on Saturday. Anti-pass marches were being held in scattered cities across France, and 4 separate protests were held in Paris, the third weekend of anti-health pass protests. With virus infections spiking and hospitalizations rising, French lawmakers have passed a bill requiring the pass in most places as of August 9. Police show a majority of French support the pass, but some French are adamantly opposed. The pass requires vaccinations or a quick negative test or proof of a recent recovery from COVID-19 and mandates vaccinations for all healthcare workers by mid-September. For anti-pass demonstrators, liberty was the slogan of the day.
The news continues on the English language broadcast of the Voice of Turkey.
Magnitude 5.5 earthquake jolts southwestern Turkey. A magnitude 5.5 earthquake struck off Turkey's southwestern coast early Sunday. The Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, AFAD for short, said the quake struck off Datça town of Muğla province at 7:30 a.m. local time. It occurred at a depth of 14 kilometers below the surface. Turkish Deputy Interior Minister İsmail Çataklı said on Twitter that there have been no reports of damage or casualties so far. Turkey welcomed the reopening of a strategic coastal road linking Libya's east to its west, the Turkish Foreign Ministry said Saturday. We welcome the official opening of the Misrata-Sirte coastal road on 30 July 2021, which has been closed for a long time. Turkey also praised efforts of the President's Council, Government of National Unity, led by Prime Minister Abdülhamit Dejeba, on UN support mission in Libya, and the 5+5 Joint Military Commission that resulted in the reopening. And sports. The national women's volleyball team of Turkey guaranteed its place in the quarterfinals of the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games on Saturday after beating Argentina 3-0 at Ariake Arena in the previous round. Ebrar Karakurt, one of the star players of the team, made a statement to another agency of Turkey after the match. She noted that they were following the forest fire disasters in southeastern Turkey with sadness. We are trying to be the hope of the Turkish people here. I hope we can succeed in this as well. We are aware that Turkey is going through hard times. We are trying to make them happy, even for a little bit. Let them continue to support us. We will continue to be their hope, she said, emphasizing the importance of reaching the quarterfinals. Ebrar said, "We knew we had to win today. If we lost, it would be difficult for us to reach the quarterfinals. We are in the quarterfinals for the first time in the Olympics and we are happy. I hope we will achieve better things. We are all excited," she concluded. Meanwhile, Khalid Dressel powered to his 5th gold medal of the Tokyo Olympics as the United States won their duel in the pool with Australia ahead of the hotly anticipated men's 100 meters showdown on the track. Elsewhere on day 9 in Japan, home favorite Hideki Matsuyama targets golden gold while Germany's Alexander Zverev takes on Russia's Karen Khachanov in the men's tennis final. U.S. gymnastics great Simone Biles, struggling with a debilitating mental block, withdrew from the floor final, leaving her just one more chance of competition in the top draw. U.S. gymnastics announced Sunday that the 6-time Olympic medalist has opted not to compete on floor, where she won gold in Rio de Janeiro and placed 2nd in qualifying last week. Jennifer Gadrova of Britain will replace Biles in the finals, which are scheduled for Monday. U.S. gymnastics said Biles has not decided whether to participate in the balance beam final, which is scheduled for Tuesday. She earned bronze on the event in Brazil 5 years ago. Biles has already chosen not to compete in the uneven bars and vault finals set for Sunday evening at the Ariake Gymnastics Center. She was not expected to medal on bars, but is the Olympic champion on vault. Biles is dealing with a mental block that in gymnastics is referred to as the twisties. In other words, Biles is having trouble figuring out where her body is in relation to the ground when in the air. Elaine Thompson-Herah broke Florence Griffith's Joyce 33-year-old Olympic record in the women's 100 meters, pointing at the scoreboard even before crossing the line in 10.61 seconds Saturday to defend her title and lead a Jamaican sweep off the medal. Griffith's joiners set the old record of 10.62 at the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Thompson-Herah beat her top rival Shelley and Fraser-Price by 13 seconds. Shericka Jackson, who moved to the shorter sprint for the Tokyo Olympics, won bronze in 10.76. This had been shaping up as a fast race for days, if not months. In June, Fraser-Price ran the 4th fastest time in history at 10.63 seconds. And when the sprinters arrived in Japan, they discovered a fast track at Olympic Stadium. In the semi-finals earlier Saturday, the Jamaicans all cracked 10.8 to get on the list of the 10 best times in Olympic history. Then it was Thompson-Herah's turn to make history. Flo Joy's records are older than virtually every sprinter in the women's game, save Fraser-Price, who was born about 80 months before the Americans set the marks. And that was the news and sports, brought to you by the Voice of Turkey.
What are the key issues we must care about to protect ourselves from the coronavirus that alarmed the whole world? We should frequently wash our hands at least for 20 seconds with ample water and soap. We shouldn't touch our nose, eyes, and our face in general with unwashed hands. We should constantly remind our children to care about personal hygiene. We should cover our mouth as we sneeze or cough with a single-use paper towel or the inside of our elbow. We should eat a balanced diet, drink lots of water, and get a lot of fresh air. If we know and apply the protection measures, there is no need to fear any illness.
Did you know that Turkey's first and only women's library is located in Istanbul? The Women's Library and Information Center Foundation, which was opened in 1990, is the first and only women-centered library and archive in Turkey. The center serves to make it possible for people to acquire a better knowledge of women's history, to present this accumulation of information on women's lives and experiences to researchers in a more coherent way, to preserve and harbor today's written documents for the future generations. The collections of the Women's Library in Istanbul are organized in 16 main sections, like women's private papers, women's oral history, women's organizations, ephemeria, women writers and artists, and so on. These documents are unique and cannot be found elsewhere, because libraries and archives in general do not have an acquisition policy regarding the women's movement documents in Turkey. Large quantities of ephemeral material regarding the women's movement is only kept by the Women's Library, which frames and constitutes the memory of women and the women's movement, and the growth of the library's collection is parallel to the development of the women consciousness in Turkey. Thus, the collections in the library archive are unique and important in terms of preserving works and documents related to women in Turkey from the Ottoman Empire era to the present day. In addition to librarianship and archiving, this center also organizes numerous events such as conferences, panels, workshops, and international symposiums. So, via such activities, all kinds of information produced by women are introduced to the society at large. Located in the historic Balat district of Istanbul, the library is also attracting local and foreign tourists with the popularization of this region.
Did you know that
The Voice of Turkey, always by your side. A world of news in 41 languages on trtvotword.com.
Weekly analysis.
only country that survived the Arab Spring revolutions as a democracy, Tunisia went into a serious crisis. Tunisian President Said declared on Sunday night that he froze the parliament for a month, suspended the immunity of all members of the parliament, deposed the incumbent Prime Minister El Machichi, and that he will assume the executive powers through a new Prime Minister he will appoint. One could hear the footsteps of this crisis, the biggest one in the country since the Jasmine Revolution in 2011. The coronavirus pandemic, worsening public services, unemployment and corruption claims had led to protests in the country since January. Also, there has been a visible disagreement between President Said and Prime Minister El Machichi since January. President Said refused to approve the appointment of 11 ministers, including the Interior Minister. Here is an assessment by SETA's Security Researchers Director and author, Professor Murat Yeşiltaş. Elected president in the second round of 2019 elections, Said is a professor of the law. As an outsider in politics, he is known to be a figure against political parties. He criticizes representative democracy and he feels warmer towards direct democracy as someone with populist features. He is reaching out to the masses, complaining about the inability of the parliamentary system finding solutions to inherent problems. There have been attacks against the offices of Ennahda, the biggest party in the parliament, and now President Said froze the legislative branch and took over the executive and judicial branches. Said conducted this coup with the support of the military, and it seems too difficult for him to find a solution to economic and political problems in Tunisia. Inspired by the Sisi coup in Egypt in 2013, President Said probably believes he will receive financial support from the Gulf countries. UAE has been known to be active in Tunisia for a while. This may be the harbinger of a new status quo movement from the Gulf. Parliament Speaker and Ennahda leader Ghannouchi labeled the decision of Said as a coup against the revolution and the constitution, while calling on Tunisian people to stand against the coup. Tunisia's already broken 10-year-old democracy is now being put to a serious test. President Said's coup against politics does not only point to a crisis in the only democratic country of the Arab world. This also carries the risk of ending the most successful experience of Islamists with democracy in the Arab world. Libya's putschist General Haftar connected the July 25 coup in Tunisia with the Muslim Brotherhood matter. In 10 Congress meetings, Ennahda movement declared the separation of the party and the religious organization. This last crisis is a rough test not only for the Tunisian democracy but also for the Ennahda movement and Ghannouchi. Ankara wants Tunisia to reject this coup against the constitutional order and establish democracy once again. Western capitals are still silent. Once again, they are choosing tangible interests over true values and democracy. Upcoming weeks are extremely critical for the future of Tunisia and North African region. Withdrawal from democracy in Tunisia can further damage the region. The only solution is to defend democracy and create a political climate to establish stability in Tunisia. This program was penned by SETA Security Researchers Director and author Professor Murat Yeşiltaş.
Weekly analysis.
Don't forget, coronavirus is a symptomatic illness. The most common symptoms are fever, exhaustion, a sore throat, dry cough and gasping. So what can we do for protection against the coronavirus? We should wash our hands with ample water and soap for at least 20 seconds. When there is no water or soap, we should clean our hands with sanitizers or alcohol. Do not touch your nose, mouth and eyes with unwashed hands. Avoid contact with infected people. We should cover our mouth as we sneeze or cough with a single-use paper towel or the inside of our elbow. Avoid the crowds. The vaccine for this virus has yet to be found, but there are measures of protection. The best way to survive the illness is to not getting the illness in the first place. Turkey, always by your side.
You have been listening to the Voice of Turkey's English language transmission, broadcasting from Ankara in the 49 meter band between 1830 and 1930 UTC on 5945 kHz to Europe, between 2030 and 2130 UTC in the 31 meter band on 9875 kHz to South Asia and Australia, between 2200 and 2300 UTC in the 31 meter band and on 9830 kHz to Europe, Eastern USA and Canada, and in the 19 meter band on 15520 kHz between 1630 and 1730 UTC to Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. The Voice of Turkey is also beamed between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 41 meter band and on 7275 kHz to Europe, the USA, Eastern Canada and Cuba, between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 49 meter band on 6165 kHz to Iraq, Syria, Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. You can listen to us over the Turksat 3A and 4A satellites and on the internet at www.crt.net.tr through the Voice of Turkey link. Please note that transmissions broadcast between 2200 and 2300 UTC and between 0300 and 0400 UTC have been pre-recorded. For now though, thank you for listening to the Voice of Turkey and goodbye.